Hey third graders, welcome to Module 4, Lesson 10. My husband drew you a beautiful picture of Module 4. Today you're going to apply the distributive property as a strategy to find the total area of a large rectangle by adding two products. What that means is that we're going to be taking a large rectangle, and to find the area of it, we're going to break it up into smaller rectangles so that we can find the area more easily. To begin, I'd like you guys to think about this rectangle right here and how actually you could think about this being three different rectangles. Do you guys see all three rectangles? You should see this rectangle right here. You should see this rectangle right here. But then you should also see the one big rectangle that these two rectangles make when they're put together. So this is the trick for today. We have one big rectangle and we're going to split it into two smaller rectangles, add them together like we did on yesterday's lesson, and then we have the area for the bigger rectangle, which is a pretty great math trick. So let's go ahead and find the area of this rectangle first. If you could draw this on your notes right now, something that looks pretty similar to it so that you can write down your measurements as well. Go ahead and do that. Press pause and press play when you're done. All right, our measurements on this rectangle are going to be 6 centimeters by 5 centimeters. And this is just from here to here. So I'm even going to make some little lines so that you know that from here to here is just the 6 centimeters. What's the area of this rectangle right here? Go ahead and solve that. Press pause and press play when you're done. The area of this rectangle you should have put as 6 centimeters times 5 centimeters equals 30 square centimeters. Oops, I put the dot after the cm. That actually is not supposed to be there. Okay, so now that we did that one, here's the measurements for this rectangle here. This rectangle is going to be 3 centimeters. And since this right here is going to be the same as this right here because they're opposite sides, I know without even looking that this is, or without measuring, excuse me, I do have to look, but without measuring again, I know that this is 5 centimeters. So what's the area of this little rectangle right here? Go ahead and find it, press pause and press play. For this little rectangle right here, you should have done 3 centimeters times 5 centimeters equals 15 square centimeters. We're not done because we need to think about the rectangle as a whole. So now we're ready to add up our two areas. So here's our first area, here's our second area, and now we can add those together. Let's go ahead and do that. Press pause and press play when you're done. All right, you should have added 30 plus 15 equals 45 square centimeters. Now, if we had found the area of this on its own without dividing it up into two pieces, we would have had on this side from here to here is 6 plus 3, which is 9. So we would have had 9 times 5, which equals 45. All right, here's our first big rectangle that we're going to cut into different parts to make two smaller rectangles. On your paper, I would like you guys to draw an area model to represent what we've done here, and then we're going to write some side lengths. So on your notes, you're going to draw your rectangle like this, your big rectangle, then you're going to show where you split it about, and now we're going to write our side lengths. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 centimeters. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 centimeters. And here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 centimeters. To find the area of our top rectangle, we have enough information. We know that this times this will equal our area here. For this bottom rectangle, we need this side and this side, or this side and this side, although these will have the same measurement. So I can use this information here. So 8 centimeters, all of these lengths will be 8 centimeters. So 8 centimeters. Now we have enough information to find the area of our two smaller rectangles, then we can add them together to make the area of our larger rectangle. Go ahead and try to do this. Press pause and press play when you're done. All right, so for your area, you should have found that 8 times 5 equals 40 centimeters squared, or square centimeters. You should have found that 4 times 8 equals 32 square centimeters. And then you could have added those together. You should have added those together. So you would have added 40 plus 32 equals 72 square centimeters. Now, this is not how you're going to write your math in our Engage New York book. You're going to be writing it a little bit differently. So I want you guys to write the steps with me so that you understand what each step means. So first, they're going to write what the big rectangle's multiplication problem is, what its side lengths are before we cut it up into two smaller rectangles, excuse me. Okay, so that means that we're going to multiply 8 times 5 plus 4, which is 9. So our big rectangle before we split it was 8 times 9. Now I already know that 8 times 9 is 72, so I know that we already did the math right. But so we're going to write that first, and that equals. Now we're not going to write 72 because we're going to say 8 times 9 equals the two rectangles that we split up. So both of them, did you notice that they're both being timesed by 8? So we're going to write 8 times 9 equals 8, which is that number right here, but what we split up was the 9. So it's going to be 8 times, and what did we split the 9 up into? We split it up into a 5, and we split it up into a 4. So we're going to write what we split it up into. So 8 times 5 plus 4. All right, so now that we did that, the second thing that we did was we found the numbers to multiply by 8. So we're going to just leave that 8 times 9 alone. And remember, instead of writing it over and over again, we can just leave it blank because it's assumed that the 8 times 9 just follows until the end. So it would be the 8 times 9 equals, and then we did 8 times 5. So we did 8 times 5, and then we did 8 times 4. So when we write it, it would be equals 8 times 5 plus 8 times 4. Because that's what we did. We did 8 times 5, and then we added 8 times 4. I have 4 times 8 here, but it was just turnaround rule, right? Okay, now we can show how we're solving. So that equals 8 times 5 is 40, plus 8 times 4, which is 32. And then our final step is to add them together, which would be the 72 centimeters squared. Look at how nicely this information is organized to show the steps that we followed, as opposed to this right here. This is a great way just to solve the math and get it done, but this is a nice way to organize it to show somebody who needs to know what you did, like, say, your teacher. Let's try another one. Okay, here's our next rectangle. Sorry, I got a little bit of red marker on there. Just please ignore that. All right, so on this rectangle, you're going to draw your area model on your paper. So you're going to draw your long rectangle. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Mine's a little wonky, a little crooked. And then we split it a little bit toward the bottom. So now we're going to add our side length measurements. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 centimeters this way. We have, what other measurements do we need? So we have this side, and now we need this side. So we know how many columns, now we need to know how many rows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is 10, and this is 2. And then I know that this line right here is still going to be 5 centimeters like this line, because that's the rule of rectangles. That's how we draw them, our equal lengths on the opposite sides. Now we have all of our information. We're ready to find the area. Let's go ahead and write it how we did on the last problem. Now your notes should be nice and organized, so all you have to do is look back at the last problem to see the order that you write things in. So if we look back at this one, okay, we had to write what the big rectangle was before we split it into 2 pieces. So our big rectangle is 5 times 12. 10 plus 2 is 12. So write that on your paper. So we split that 12 up, so now we're going to show how we split it up. So in our last one, we kept that first number the same because we didn't split that up, and then we're going to write the numbers that we split up in parentheses. So 5 times 12 equals 5 times 10 plus 2. Now we're going to write how we're going to find the area of each rectangle, because that's our next step. We're going to find this area and this area. So we're going to find 5 times 10 plus 5 times 2. Now we're ready to do our math. So 5 times 10 here is going to be 50. Plus 5 times 2, which is 10. So remember, you're just writing the next step underneath, kind of like, I don't know, like going downstairs, and each time you go down a stair, you solve a little bit more. So now for our last step, we're going to add 50 plus 10, which is 60 square centimeters. How did you guys do? I want you guys to try this one on your own. Use the last 2 examples to help you. This is not your final problem, but this is your practice before the final problem. So go ahead and figure this out, the area, break it into the 2 smaller pieces, add them together, write your equations the way that you're supposed to, and then press pause and press play when you're done. You guys should have done your area model first by drawing about what the rectangle looks like. Doesn't have to be perfect, just get the idea across. Then you should have, maybe you needed to like pause the video to count the squares, but we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 going this way. I'll put my units so that I don't forget that they're centimeters. Now I have enough information for this rectangle, but this rectangle, I want to make sure I have enough information. So it's going to be 10 times 7 because of the opposite sides. Now I'm ready to do my math. So my original problem, you should have written 7 times 13 equals. And then we took that and we broke the 13 up into a 10 and a 3. So 10 plus 3. Then to find the area, you should have found the area of this rectangle plus the area of this rectangle. So that would be 7 times 10 plus 7 times 3. Then you should have found the area of each rectangle after that. So 7 times 10 is 70 plus 7 times 3, which is 21. Then 70 plus 21. And if you need to stack these off to the side, you totally can. So you could go 70 plus 21. Some of you guys are getting really good at your mental math though, so just whatever works for you. But you should have gotten 91. Okay, here is your final problem. I'm giving you the hint that the big rectangle before we split it into 2 pieces is 9 times 12. All right, go ahead and try it, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night.